Hi there, Fabian Krause here from the Guyana Revenue Authority. This week, the Guyana Revenue Authority is requiring proof of vaccination and identification cards for taxpayers visiting its offices. We'll remind you of the other important aspects of the COVID-19 office protocol that you must adhere to, whether vaccinated or unvaccinated. The government approves reduction in freight charges to cushion the impact COVID-19 has had on shipping costs. You'll hear from the Tax Exemption Processing and Verification Unit about the provisions for persons with disabilities who are importing motor vehicles. And a tax specialist will be joining us to talk about mortgage interest relief. These and more. Focus on GRA begins right now.
The Guyana Revenue Authority is pleased to introduce to you our optimal revenue management system. You don't have to stand in line, file your tax online. At GRA now it's a fact. You could go online and file your tax. Stay home, don't worry, just relax. Stay safe and file your tax. Save money and time. You don't have to stand in line. Never miss a deadline. At GRA, you can file your tax online. The Optimal Revenue Management System is an improved and user-friendly software that facilitates online services and the management of your tax affairs from your homes or offices. With this powerful and flexible solution, we provide comprehensive and flexible online services, thereby reducing the cost of compliance. Visit the GRA resource page www.gra.gov.gy/optimal to find out more. Sign up and register for an optimal account at eservices.gra.gov.gy. At GRA, you can file your tax online.
Welcome to Focus on GRA, a program of information for taxpayer education. We begin with a reminder about the new mandate based on the COVID-19 emergency measures that require every taxpayer desirous of doing transactions at the GRA to show proof that they were vaccinated and a form of identification to the security before entering. You will also hear the rules that apply to the unvaccinated. Here's more.
To transact business with the Guyana Revenue Authority, taxpayers must prove their vaccination status in keeping with the recently gazetted COVID-19 national emergency measures. Manager of the Public Relations Unit, Marcia Harris, explains that management has implemented new protocols for taxpayers visiting any GRA office. The GRA will allow vaccinated persons immediate access to its premises.
When they come to do transactions with the Guyana Revenue Authority, that they provide proof of vaccination, which will mean their vaccination cards in this instance. And of course, they also have to provide a valid form of identification. And so that will be your driver's license, your national ID, or your passport.
Taxpayers who are unvaccinated will have to make an appointment before accessing GRA's premises.
Well, we have some hotlines that we would have published, and we also have some email addresses that we would have shared for persons who want to make contact with the head office, for persons who want to make contact with any of our branch offices, or for our operations at the wharves. And so we have those email addresses for the persons who are making appointments for Georgetown location, which is headquarters basically. You have appointments at gra.gov.gy. And of course, I know that you're going to show those so that they can have them on screen and they can write them out. You also have wharves at gra.gov.gy, and you have branches at gra.gov.gy. So those are the 3 email addresses that persons can write to when they want to make an appointment, or they can call our switchboard or receptionist, and the telephone numbers are the ones that they will usually call all the time, but it's just the extensions that they need to remember. And so they can call 227-6060 or 227-8222. And the extensions to call once you would have dialed those numbers, the extensions that you will punch in are 1502, 1506, or 1507.
Taxpayers are advised to be clear on which department they would like to visit to conduct business when making an appointment.
So if it's for license, then you need to ensure that you're telling us that your appointment is for the license department because you want to do registration or you want to have your driver's license renewed, whatever the case may be, but you need to be clear on that so we will know how to route your call so that you can speak with the right person and we don't have to be transferring you to different places.
Similarly, when making an appointment through the email option, taxpayers are advised to be clear on what type of service they would like to access.
If you explain your situation clearly, then we can route that email to the right department and they will in turn make contact with you. So we're also asking persons to ensure that they indicate in the email, if they were to use the email route, that they indicate a contact number, just in the event that the officer needs to call them to clarify any issues that they may have with the appointment.
Taxpayers are encouraged to contact Tax Advisory Services section for advice on tax matters via email taxadvisory@gra.gov.gy.
For persons who want to make regular queries like they usually make, they can do so by making contact with the very telephone numbers that we mentioned before, which is 227-6060 and the 227-8222. They can call those numbers and then they can get on to the Tax Advisory Services section now, which will provide them with tax advice on any tax-related issue, of course, that they may need advice on. And so the extensions that they can dial to get a tax advisory services section, they can use 8000, which will link them to the Hunt group, where what happens there is that once you dial 8000, then your call is transferred or it bounces across all the extensions that are available in that section, so that if somebody is on a call and you wouldn't have to be on hold all the time, so the call will bounce around until somebody picks up the call. Or if you don't want to use the Hunt group, which is 8000, then you can use the direct extensions, which are 1201 to 1204. 1201 to 1204 are the ordinary extensions.
These new visiting measures took effect from August 9, 2021. The new GRA visiting measure applies to all GRA's integrated regional tax offices, wharves, transit sheds, and headquarters.
With the vaccination cards and identification added to the list of requirements for entering the GRA's office, we would also like to remind you of the other aspects of the existing visiting rules that are equally important and are in place to promote your safety and the safety of the GRA staff in this COVID-19 period. Firstly, the GRA's working hours for the public are from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Mondays to Thursdays, and on Fridays, 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. However, as part of efforts to facilitate faster service, the office is open from 7 a.m. to taxpayers visiting for transactions relating to driver's license and payment at the cashier. Please note that the opening hours for this particular application only applies to the GRA's headquarters. In keeping with the COVID-19 safety protocol, taxpayers are reminded that entry will be limited. If you're waiting under the tent outside of the compound, you are advised to join the lanes that are specific to your transaction. There's the driver's lane, the payment lane, and tin and any other business. Also, we want to remind you that you should remember to observe the social distancing rules whenever you're waiting on the outside. Now, after you would have cleared the security checkpoint, you will be directed to the hand washing sinks to sanitize your hands. Remember, mask wearing is mandatory. Applicants for driver's license, you will be directed to the tent that's on the inside of the compound, where you will proceed to the license lodgement area in groups of 3 at the instruction of the security personnel. In the interest of convenience and to avoid unnecessary overcrowding at the GRA's head office, the GRA is advising applicants living outside of Georgetown to visit their respective integrated regional tax offices. Persons applying for a taxpayer identification number TIN, you must proceed to the receptionist waiting area and sit on the western side of the room, where you will await further directions. The cashier unit is separated by 2 lanes. There's the red lane for payment of all taxes, customs duty, and driver's license, And there's the blue lane for payment of motor vehicle, conductors and provisional license, liquor trade and miscellaneous license. The red lane comprises cashiers 1 to 7 and the blue lane cashiers 8 to 30. Alternative payments can be made at the GRA's external workstation, which is at the Guyana Post Office Corporation Rock Street entrance. The office is located on the first floor, easterly direction, and it facilitates payment of all internal revenue taxes, customs duty, motor vehicle license, and value-added tax, VAT. The submission of VAT returns to the Guyana Revenue Authority is a monthly obligation that registered businesses must honor, that is, VAT registered businesses. Section 31 of the VAT Act, number 10 of 2005, specifies that the due date is the 15th working day after the end of the tax period, and the tax period is 1 calendar month. The due date for the month of July is therefore Monday, August 23. This due date would account for the 15th working day after the month minus weekends and the August 1 Emancipation Day national holiday. Focus on GRA is back right after these messages. As a remigrant, you can import more than one vehicles and pay no import duties, no VAT, and reduce excise tax. However, the total exemption cannot exceed $5 million. If it does, you will have to pay the additional duties and taxes. Did I mention that returning students are also entitled to the same benefit 6 months after settling in the country? For additional information and assistance, contact us 227-6060, extension 1201 to 1204. Welcome back, you're watching Focus on GRA. Now, in response to the drastic increase in shipping costs brought on by the pandemic, the government on August 9 approved a reduction in freight charges to pre-pandemic levels, that is, March 31, 2020. This concession will be in effect on all invoices dated August 1, 2021, and will remain in effect until January 31, 2022. Here's more. The hardships brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic has been evident in shipping costs, which have doubled and tripled in some instances. It was observed that the shipping cost for a 20-foot container from some countries has increased from an average $2,500 to as much as $15,000, while for a 40-foot container, the cost was increased from $3,500 to $20,000. The importer who bears the burden of paying the high duties and taxes calculated on the freights is often left with little choice but to pass on the increase to the consumer. This has been evident in the notable increase in prices of consumer items over the last few months. Recognizing these challenges and in keeping with the President's directive on relief for freight charges to pre-pandemic levels in the calculation of duties and taxes on goods imported and sold locally, the Guyana Revenue Authority advises that the relief of freight charges will be applied to imports of goods subject to the following conditions. The relief takes effect for a 6-month period from August 1, 2021 to January 31, 2022. The invoice must be on or after August 1, 2021 or after and be within the period specified. This measure is for freight purposes only in the calculation of duties and taxes. The invoices must be at an FOB, freight on board level, or the FOB position must be clearly specified on the invoice for valuation checks in keeping with the Customs Act. The relief is granted for the reduction of freight to the pre-pandemic levels of March 31, 2020, and will only apply if the actual freight charges paid is higher than the pre-pandemic rates, as outlined in the average freight rates in the table seen here. Countries or regions not specifically mentioned in the table seen here will be reviewed on a country basis when the deliberation is submitted and or when audit checks are conducted. Any other conditions approved by the Commissioner General will be communicated to the general public. The measure is intended to provide relief so that benefits can be passed on to the consumer. As such, the freight on board value declared on invoices will be reviewed, cross-referenced, and applied by the Customs, Excise, and Trade Operations based on the rules of the World Trade Organization and the Customs Act. Should unscrupulous importers seek to manipulate the system for tax evasion, they will be penalized in accordance with existing legislation. Those found non-compliant may be subject to additional taxes, fines, penalties, and 6 months imprisonment, and the possible removal of the relief being granted under the measure. Mortgage interest relief is an initiative by the government that started since 2013 that seeks to help persons realize their dreams of owning a home by providing a relief, as the name suggests, on the interest paid on that residential mortgage. Well, it's on that note that I'm joined by Ms. Marcel Evans, a tax specialist from the GRA's Tax Advisory Services section, who will be providing you with the details. Marcel, welcome to the program. What types of mortgage must one be seeking to benefit from the mortgage interest relief?
Section 20A1 of the Income Tax Act, Chapter 8101 states that ascertaining the chargeable income of an individual who was resident in Guyana in the year immediately preceding the year of assessment, there shall be allowed a deduction of the interest paid on housing mortgage loans owed by the individual to licensed financial institution or approved mortgage finance companies for the purchase of a land for constructing a residential building, the construction of a residential building, or the acquisition of a residential building.
Okay, great. So tell me about the eligibility criteria for obtaining a mortgage interest relief.
In order to be eligible for mortgage interest relief, the applicant must be a first-time home owner who occupies the property, and the principal amount borrowed must not exceed 30 million Guyana dollars.
And what requirements must an individual meet in order to start the mortgage interest relief process?
In order to commence the MIR process, the applicant must complete the application form, produce letters by lender, which is the Form 2, scheduled by the lender showing yearly interest, copy of transport, title, lease agreement, loan agreement with the lending agency or institution, copy of sale and purchase agreement in absence of transport, title, or lease, copy of identification card or passport, pictures of the property showing the front, back, and the two sides of the building, proof of the elected mortgage savings account number. In addition, the applicant must reside in Guyana, must also be the sole or joint owner of the property, and sole or joint borrower of the mortgage. All relevant returns must be filed and taxes paid. Applicants must satisfy all of the following criteria just listed above to be eligible for the approval of the mortgage interest relief.
Great, thank you very much, Marcel. And there you have it, the criteria and eligibility for mortgage interest relief. Ms. Marcel Evans from the GRA's Tax Advisory Services section providing you with the details. But if you have other questions, feel free to contact us at the numbers listed at the end of our program. Focus on GRA is back right after this.
Hi, I am Balwan Prasad, driver for the past 10 years. Over the years that I have been driving, I always make sure that I buckle up, I observe the 5C, and most importantly, make sure that I renew my driver's license at least 3 months before the expiration date.
Welcome back, you're watching Focus on GRA. Recognizing how much bureaucracy and red tape has stymied the movement of goods across borders for trade, the current trade facilitation procedures at customs have simplified, modernized, and harmonized import and export processes. Here's more. After much consultations, reviews, and pilot projects, Customs has adopted international best practices to improve its procedures and control systems for faster trade and removal of bottlenecks. The routine scanning of container cargo using high-tech mobile scanning technology has improved surveillance, processing, and clearance of consignments for exports. The automated system for customs data, Asicuda World, has paved the way for direct trader input, whereby importers, exporters, and their agents are now able to submit customs declarations and pay customs duty online. Munishwar Shipping has 7 representatives who are registered users of Asicuda World.
We were one of the first company to be involved in the training at GRA. At first, there were a lot of questions and queries, which we got answers to later on in the process. We also were the first to enter the manifest manually via Asicuda. Being the first, there was a lot of experience. We did the manual entering for around 6 months to 7 months, and subsequently we got good at it. We stopped making errors and so forth.
GRA's post-clearance audit controls have given customs more time and greater leverage in its verification exercise, as cargo is released from the wharf and delivered to importers before the customs audit.
Anyone who basically conducts imports are subjected or should be subjected to a post-clearance audit review at a time subsequent to their importation to determine their level of compliance.
The post-clearance audit unit within the GRA would therefore conduct mandatory audit reviews to determine a trader's level of compliance in relation to classification, valuation, rules of origin, authenticity of documents submitted, and calculation of duties and taxes. While the post-clearance audit functions provide customs with a clear and more comprehensive picture of transactions by a trader, it also assists in improving trade transaction cost and time.
How it benefits the importer is that they will be able to receive their goods in a timely manner, and post-clearance will check after, so that will be reducing storage cost.
Soon, the GRA will be putting systems in place to connect with other government and regulatory agencies to allow traders to access and submit documents through a single window system. At present, companies with good compliance records are given priority attention at all ports of entry under GRA's Trusted Trader program. Once deemed a trusted trader by the GRA, a company conducting trade can benefit from one or more of the following: reduced processing, release, and clearance time, reduced frequency or levels of physical inspection and examinations, automatic issuance of temporary compliance certificates, and for manufacturing, issuance of yearly tax exemption letters, as opposed to on a shipment-by-shipment basis. At the Chedijagan International Airport and the Eugene F. Correa International Airport, where cargo arrives via air, Customs has a special provision in place for trusted traders, along with low-risk importers and any other person who may have personal consignments to clear at the airport.
In conjunction with the clearance of commercial cargo, on the arrival of any person who characterizes as trusted traders, we instantly, based on the staffing, currently right now you just came from Leparcon. At Leparcon we have a simple process. We have a number of consolidators. We will have what we call walk-in customer who we are catering for, that will include the trusted traders, and we will have a staff assigned to those persons as they arrive.
The GRA determines who is eligible for trusted trader status by examining the company's annual turnover and tax payments. Companies must be well established, have a good record of compliance with the laws administered by the GRA in areas of tax returns and audit history. Companies that meet these eligibility requirements and are desirous of becoming trusted traders are encouraged to make a formal application to the Commissioner General with justification for consideration.
Once the application is made, we go through the application, we ensure that the persons have complied, or if they have not complied, they've made arrangements to comply. It's a stringent process in which we choose a trusted trader.
We want to let you know now that among the categories of individuals eligible for exemptions from tax on imports are persons with disabilities. You'll hear from the Tax Exemptions Processing and Verification Unit within the GRA about the provisions and the application requirements.
The Persons with Disabilities Act Chapter 3605, Laws of Guyana, defines a disability as a physical or mental impairment caused by the limitations of the body structure or of one or more functions that restrict the ability to perform ordinary day-to-day life activities. We sat down with Ms. Ebony Gransalt, Verification Officer, Tax Exemption Processing and Verification Division, to take a closer look at these exemptions. She defines the type of smartphones and motor vehicles eligible for this category of exemptions.
The smartphones or handset would have to be so designed to accommodate one who is visually impaired or has an hearing impediment. Now, the motor vehicle, they can import any kind of motor vehicle, right? But if it's so desired that it needs to be modified or retrofitted to accommodate such persons, then they can do so before the motor vehicle is registered.
Now, let's look at the specific legislation behind these exemptions. The first schedule, Part 3B2, Item 52 of the Customs Act, Chapter 8201, exempts import duty on smartphones and handsets. Schedule 2, Paragraph 23 of the Value-Added Tax Act, Chapter 8105, exempts VAT on smartphones and handsets. The first schedule, Part 3B2, Item 49B of the Customs Act, Chapter 8201, exempts import duty on motor vehicles whose date of manufacture is 4 years or in excess of 4 years before the date of importation of such vehicles. However, if a motor vehicle is less than 4 years when imported, import duty at the rate of 10% for goods carrying vehicles or 45% for passenger type would apply. Table 821, contained in the excise tax regulations, exempts excise tax on motor vehicles designed for use by persons with disabilities or that will be converted for use by such persons. Schedule 2, Paragraph 10, Subparagraph 8 of the Value-Added Tax Act exempts VAT on motor vehicles for persons with disabilities. Ms. Gransalt explains the application process for these tax exemptions.
For one to qualify for tax exemptions under that category of exemption, they would be required to be a registered member of the National Commission on Disability. Once they're a registered member there, the recommendation is then forwarded to the Guyana Revenue Authority for us to grant the tax exemption on the motor vehicle requested.
Additionally, the eligible person must be a Guyanese citizen living in Guyana. The Commission is required to certify in the letter of recommendation to the Commissioner General that the person is a registered member of the National Commission on Disability, NCD. In addition, the Commission must certify in the said letter the type of disability and that the person is eligible for such an exemption based on medical records and the vehicle is suitable for use by the person with the disability or that it can be modified for their use. Ms. Gransalt outlines the necessary documents that must accompany the application.
The applicant would be required to submit the recommendation from the National Commission on Disability, a copy of their invoice, a copy of their medical report, a copy of their ID or passport, and photographs of the individual.
Exemptions on vehicles will only be granted once, while exemptions on smartphones are granted every 2 years. The tax exemption is usually granted in 2 to 3 working days, provided that there are no queries in the ASACUDA database.
The Guyana Revenue Authority requires proof of vaccination and identification for taxpayers visiting its offices. We told you about other important aspects of the COVID-19 protocol that you must adhere to when visiting the office. That's whether you're vaccinated or not. The government approves reduction in freight charges to cushion the impact COVID-19 has had on shipping costs. We had someone from the Tax Exemptions Processing and Verification Unit outlining the provisions for persons with disabilities importing motor vehicles. And we had a tax specialist here talking about mortgage interest relief. Those were the highlights in this week's edition of Focus on GRA. But before I go, visit our website, gra.gov.gy, for more information. Or you can check out our social media platforms to learn more. You can also email us at grapublicrelations@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. Fabian Klaus saying goodbye for now.